I'm a little mad. And it's very simple. TFC is really pissing me off. As a fan of the sport, more than anything, it's pissing me off because they have talent. And it's good talent. Bernardeschi has shown that he is a top player in the MLS. You have Jonathan Osorio, one of Canada's leaders. And he's looked good. He has. He really has looked good. You got Michael Bradley, one of the best ball distributors in the league. Maybe his foot speed's a little slow. We'll get into that a little bit. Richie Laryea, one of the top wing backs as well. And Sean Johnson, who is still one of the top keepers in the league. Maybe not as high as he used to be, but he's still up there. And yet, through 6 matches, this team has a grand total of 1 win. 4 draws, don't get me wrong, 4 draws. But 1 win. That's not good. It's not ideal, that's for sure. And now if they were losing games and it was from the start, or if they were coming back to draw games, I think this rant would be a little bit different. I mean, I probably wouldn't even be having the rant that I'm about to have. But we're at the point where it's not that they're coming back from games. No. They're losing games. They have the lead, and then they lose the lead. They had 1 0-0 draw, so we'll push that game aside. 0-0. No one took the lead. No one lost the lead. We're good. We'll move that one aside. 5 other games. TFC has had the lead in all of them. All of them. Every single game, TFC has had the lead in the second half. Every single game. And what do they have to show for it? 5 matches where you have the lead in the second half. 1 win. 1. They had the lead in the 88th minute of their first match and somehow ended up losing that game. That is unacceptable to begin with. I talked about it then. I was hoping it was a one-off. Unfortunately, we are here. It is not a one-off. This is unacceptable from a top team. And that's why TFC is not a top team at the moment. They are not. They followed that 3-2 loss to DC up with a draw in Atlanta where they went up in the 52nd minute and gave up the lead in the 60th. They then followed that up with a game against Columbus. In Columbus. Or at home, I apologize. They were at home. And they scored in the 24th minute. Everything was good. DeAndre Kerr, great goal. And then they gave it up in the 75th minute. They held the lead for 50 minutes. Then they pick up the 2-0 win at home against Miami. That one, fully deserved. They played well in that game. Didn't give Miami anything at all. Then I mentioned the 0-0 draw, which we can push aside because it doesn't really apply to the conversation we're having. Because this past weekend, at home, Bernardeschi scores an Olympico. First Olympico in TFC history. They're riding high. Then Michael Bradley scores that goal in the 44th minute. They head into the half up 2-0 with a back-breaking goal right at the end of the half. And then what happens? Well, Bender scores in the 50th minute. And then, of course, this happens. And I think the broadcasters who were on the call, Nate and Kindra for Apple TV, did a great job explaining this, so I'm going to play it. Here's their call of the Charlotte second goal.
Back to his feet as Federski as Vargas has it on the left-hand side. Looking for Jóźwiak, and Jóźwiak touches it home! The crowd have pulled level here in Toronto.
Everybody in an onside position. I mean, that's just a mistake marking. Jóźwiak gets on the wrong side of Richie Laryea, and it's an easy one.
Yeah. Kindred de Saint-Aubin nailed it on the head. It was a mistake in marking. Unfortunately, it was from one of the better players on TFC in Richie. And then they had nothing the rest of the game. In fact, I was surprised they didn't lose that game. Charlotte played a much better game in the second half. And I can't take anything away from what Charlotte did. If this was a one-off, it wouldn't be a conversation that we're having, though. Now I'm sitting here 4 times this year. TFC has lost or drawn games that they've been ahead in the second half. Like that's unimaginable to me for a professional team. And yet here we are. So the questions then arise, why is this happening? Well, a lot of people are looking to Bob Bradley, and I don't think that's fair. I think he's trying to deal with the hand that's dealt him, but let's talk about that. Maybe he's not the right coach. Maybe they need to bring in someone who can utilize the players that we have in the system. Maybe someone who likes to rotate the squad a little bit more. I don't know if that's the right answer. That's what's being talked about a lot in fan circles for sure, and I get why. I understand where people are coming from, but I don't think that's the right answer right now because I think Bob Bradley is a very good coach. He's shown that he's a very good coach at the MLS level, and I think he's gotten a lot out of players who otherwise probably would have fallen through the cracks. But if I'm looking at this right now, it's not on him. It's on the players. And more than anything, I think it comes down to cardio and the ability to play a full 90-minute game. Because, as I've mentioned, they've had these leads in the second half. They've been leading in the second half 5 times. 5 times, and you have 1 win out of that. That means you are not doing well enough at either adjusting to the play, and that might come down to Bob Bradley. And again, I'm open to having the conversation. I just don't think that is the reason that TFC is struggling right now. It could be a reason, that could be part of the reason, but I don't think it's the reason that they are struggling right now. I think what it comes down to is that the players are not prepared to make adjustments, or they don't have the legs to properly make adjustments. Cardio is a crazy thing. When your cardio is not good and you're out there in a 90-minute game and let's say in the 50th or 60th minute, you start feeling that cardio start to hurt, yeah, your brain's not functioning at the right level to, I don't know, adjust to a different play style or adjust to the way that a new player comes into the game. And that is an issue for sure. I'm not discounting how important the other team's adjustments are. But there's no way that a professional team should be losing 5 games, or not losing, but should not be winning more than 1 game out of 5 where they're leading in the second half. That DC one was an atrocity. 2 goals in the 90th and 90th plus. Yes, that's not okay. And drawing the other 3 games the way that they have is painful. I think the only acceptable one, in my opinion, was the Atlanta game, where the goal came like 8 minutes later. You're not really holding a lead at that point. That was a close match. You look at the stats in that one. TFC probably deserved to lose that game, but they pulled out a draw. But regardless, you're having leads in these games. Once you have a lead, you should be able to hold it. And so far this season, that's only happened in the Miami game, where that was probably the best game that TFC have played all year. And it shows what they're capable of. And yet here we are having the same conversation that we've had throughout the season. Why is TFC unable to hold leads? And that's what's making me mad this week.